Hello, my beautiful baddies. Welcome back to yet another episode of Your Inner Baddie Speaking. We're back with the love letter collection, and this one is all about fearing starting over. I have definitely been one that's scared of change, scared of new beginnings, scared of the unknown, honestly. And I'm sure you can resonate with that. Like, everything that we don't know is scary. It feels like what you're with and what you have in your life is more comforting than taking a chance, taking a risk, and beginning again. And a lot of that leads up to not only starting over, but also looking at what it was before you started over. So a lot of you are in your healing phase. A lot of you are moving on from something that's really hurt you beyond belief. And that's where my journey also started. Not to say that I didn't, try to expand on who I was beforehand, but it definitely took hitting rock bottom for me to really start fresh, to really start over. And a lot of times when you get forced into starting over, let's be honest, I was definitely forced into it. If you feel like you're healing from something that you were forced into as well, or like you didn't have much control over the space that you're in and what you want to grow from, I get it. Totally get it. Been there. But it took me being forced into starting over for me to really look at what I was starting over from. And I think that's something that we don't often necessarily look at. We look at the catalyst that made us start over, or the catalyst that made us change, or the catalyst that pushed us, into our uncomfort zone. I'm gonna brand that one. No, but like pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. And we look at that, we look at what caused it, and then we look at everything afterwards, right? If you see somebody who's going through a weight loss journey, you look at, okay, where did they start their weight loss journey and where are they now? If you look at somebody who is starting another career, you look at what career they left maybe and where they are now. If you're looking at something that somebody had to make a change for, you look at the instance that they decided to change or that they were forced into that change and where they are now, right? That's usually how we look at it. But in starting to write this love letter, I realized that I'm not just talking about starting over. I'm not just talking about what I had to start over from. I really dove into what the fuck got me to that catalyst point, to that lowest point to begin with. And looking at all of that, it really made me think about how much of my life was focused on achievements, how much of my life was focused on expected timelines, how much of my life was pure expectations on what I'm supposed to do. Honestly, from you could even put it as broad as societal norms. I definitely thought you've got to go to school, and of course, this was probably somewhat ingrained in me from, my childhood and all of that. So everybody's raised potentially differently. However, this is really what I was led to believe was what I was supposed to be building towards. I'm supposed to go to school. I'm supposed to get that degree. I'm supposed to contribute to society by getting a job. I'm supposed to be successful at that job. I'm supposed to climb the ladder at that job, all while finding somebody to spend the rest of my life with. Then I'm supposed to make the steps to get married to them. I'm supposed to buy the white picket fence house. I'm supposed to have kids, and I'm supposed to have my happily ever after, right? All of that is supposed to lead up to my happily ever after, and pretty much all of my life choices were surrounded by what can I achieve next, and how does that fit into my overall, honestly, like achievement ladder. I was just building my steps up to, okay, well, if I take one more step, I'm closer to living happily ever after. If I take one more step, I'm closer to my dream life. All of these things were notches on my way to what I believed would be my perfect dream life. And that's what I thought. That's what I felt like I was almost promised. By doing all of those things, by going through all of those motions, by making the decisions that were on that sort of set course, the trajectory of my life, I would end up happy and with a perfect life. But that didn't fucking happen. Every single step I made by timelines that I had in my head, especially if you're a woman, you will understand that there are different timelines that you feel pressured about than there are for others. We feel pressure to get married and have kids. We feel pressure to achieve the career before we have kids. So that way, in case we never go back to work or we want to re-enter the workforce, we're starting at, a strong level, or we're leaving on a high note. There's so much pressure to get things done sooner for women, and so much more pressure to achieve that perfect life sooner, because the more that you drag your feet on it, the more that you're looked at as if you'll never achieve that dream life, that you'll never reach that goal, that you'll never, maybe, you're 5 steps into your 10-step program to get to your dream life, and you hit a standstill. Suddenly you're in your mid-30s. Ooh, it's starting to look like maybe you're not going to get everything that you want, right? Maybe you're not going to get there. That's kind of what is ingrained in us from a very young age of you have to do this, and you have to do it sooner rather than later. And so there's all this pressure that's built into these timelines that you think you have to hit. I mean, one timeline for me was I have to be a director by the age of 30. That was a self-made pressure that I put on myself to achieve within my career, because that was going to make me successful. And funny enough, the director position I had was not one of my favorite positions I've ever had. It's not one of my favorite jobs. So again, even though I was going through all of these motions and I was set out to achieve all of these things, everything I set out to do led me to some sort of disappointment. And I'm not to say that like building your dream life becomes a disappointment. I'm saying that what led me to my most depressive state I've ever been in my entire life was a system that I built and I was working towards to be perfect, to have the perfect life. And it all went fucking major explosion. Not even proper English, but you know what? We're gonna let it slide on this one, all right? Let it slide for me, because shit exploded. All of this that I was working towards, all of this perfect life that I thought that I basically deserved by going through and doing all of this, everything sort of led to a disappointment. The career that I was so ingrained on getting towards probably put pressure on me to take jobs, to stay in jobs that I didn't love, because I was supposed to do that. I was supposed to stay at a job for a long time. I was supposed to climb the corporate ladder by getting promotions and having, the title that was so sought after and was going to establish me, right? That was supposed to establish me. And yet I ended up in jobs I didn't love. And not all of them were because the actual company or the actual job sucked. Sometimes it was the boss. And you can't help that necessarily when the people suck, right? Or they just don't know how to lead in a way that's cohesive with my work style. They probably work well with other people. But all of this to say that even though I was doing what I thought I was supposed to do, and I was technically achieving, I was technically becoming successful in my career, I didn't feel happy in it. There were a lot of times I questioned, why the fuck am I in this job? Why am I doing what I'm doing? Do I even like what I'm doing? Like, I was so down bad at one of my jobs that I, honest to God, questioned whether I even liked the field that I was in. Eventually, I ended up switching jobs, and I rediscovered that I do like the field that I'm in. I just didn't like the environment that I was in. Sometimes you really just need a change to figure out, or a fresh start, or to start over, to realize that, hey, I don't actually like where I was, or hey, I actually like what I was doing, but I didn't like who I was doing it for. But again, when you're working towards something that you feel like is going to give you the perfect life, you ignore a lot of the things that might be in your intuition, in your gut, or might be trying to bubble to the surface. There were definitely times where I felt like, maybe this isn't the job for me. But I took it because I felt like that was what I was supposed to do. Same thing in my love life. Thought I had to, we're all out here thinking that we got to get married and have kids, right? And so I put a lot of pressure, again, timelines, pressured timelines of I thought I needed to be, hell, I had a different timeline even in my teens than I did in my 20s. My teens, I thought I needed to be married by 24. In my 20s, I thought I need to be married and thinking about starting a family before 30. So I changed slightly, but still kept the pressure on myself. And I do believe that all of that pressure lead me to stay with somebody and pick somebody that I wouldn't necessarily have stayed with or chosen had I had no pressure, had I felt like this wasn't going to guarantee me, again, my perfect life. My perfect life included being married, but did I think about, do I want to be married to somebody that's going to give me that happily ever after? Sure, I had dreams of it, but when it came down to the pressure, I think I chose wrong. And as my history would show, I fucking did. I absolutely did choose wrong. Because I'm divorced. And I was in the worst mental state of my entire life when I was married to this person. So, again, didn't work out perfectly, did it? Again, another example. Thought I had to buy the white picket fence home. Thought buying a home was part of the process to get me to the perfect life. And yet, I never ended up living in that home. Bought it, poured money into it, poured time into it, never lived in it. Because the happily ever after that I was supposed to be, I was working towards and I was supposed to get was with somebody that it didn't work out with. It would have been such an unhappy place for me to live in. And it wasn't even my dream home. I ended up settling because the person I was with convinced me that that was going to be the perfect place for us. Now, the perfect place for me looks entirely different. And then having kids. I thought, okay, I get the job, get married, have the house, have the kids, and then everything is perfect. Well, I never ended up having those kids. And honestly, to each their own. Feel free to judge me for this. I'm so fucking happy I didn't, because I would have had them with the wrong person. And I honestly didn't even feel like being a mother when I was with that person, because they kind of put me off of what it would look like if I was to have kids. It's a lot of responsibility. It's a lot of, you want to pour as much love into your children, and there would have been no love left to pour into those children based on the trajectory if I had stayed. And so all of that led me to being forced to start over, because everything I had been building was to have that perfect life, or my idea of what the perfect life was supposed to look like. And honestly, having shit hit the fan and having the catalyst that forced me into a new life, into a fresh start, into starting over, it hurt like fucking hell. The grieving that you have to do to understand that the life you have, every single decision was supposed to lead to this happily ever after, and yet it was the absolute worst time in my life. And you have to come to terms with the fact that what you thought was supposed to get you your perfect life actually got you the worst case scenario. Like, we were supposed to shoot for the moon. We didn't get the stars. We didn't get anything. We got buried 6 feet under almost. Nothing to laugh about. I can look at it with a little bit of humor now because I did so much and I worked so hard to become miserable, to be forced to start over. And it wasn't until I started over that I realized that everything I was building towards was nothing that I fucking wanted. I didn't want to marry that person. I didn't want to have kids with that person. I didn't want the house that I purchased. I didn't want the job that I was in. Now my idea of success and the perfect life is so fucking different than what it was when I was growing up. My ideal life is slow mornings, people that I love, a life filled with laughter, happiness, feeling warm and fuzzy inside, slowing down, being at rest more often, feeling creative, doing things for the fucking sake of doing things because I like doing them. My idea of success is so different. It's not a title. It's not even a job. It's freedom. My idea of success is so fucking different. My idea of where I want to be in life is so different. My idea of who I want in my life is so different. And I was forced to start over and reframe what I wanted in my life. Yet, I feel almost like I was delivered a second chance on a silver platter to be able to discover who I was, who I wanted to be, who I was deep down, what I wanted, what I connect with, what I love in my life. And so many decisions that I was making are not the choices that I would make today. Sure, I would still go to school. Sure, I would still get a job. Sure, I would still chase love. Absolutely. All of those things are worth doing. But they look different now. The person I want to be with looks different. The things I want to do look different. The hobbies I want to have look different. The friends I want to have look different. Or I should say on that one, the friends I do have look different than they did years ago. Everything looks different because as much as shattering the concept of what you thought was supposed to be perfect is, all of those pieces of broken glass allowed me to truly see that that's not what I wanted. That honestly, I'm so fucking thankful that I was forced into starting over, because I don't know if I would have. I don't know if I would have. And everything that I've built after being forced into starting over is so much better, so much shinier, so much more worthwhile than what I did have that I was fighting so fucking hard for. And I had to let go. I had to let go of that alternate reality. If you're into Marvel, I'm off of the whole Spider-Man kick. Just rewatched a few Marvel films, back in the multiverse. If you're into that, and you're into that like multi-reality thing, multiverse, if you're into those concepts, you'll understand when I'm like, I was like living in an alternate reality, and I'm so fucking glad that I'm living in a different reality now, and that I'm building a different reality now. And honestly, it took me writing this love letter to really understand that I spent so much time building to a place that I didn't want to be. And that's why I'm not scared of starting over anymore. In fact, I'm glad. And so this is the love letter that I wrote all about starting over. I love that you've given up the idea that you have to build towards something perfect, that you have to keep going on the path you've been forging, and only those decisions, those people, and that desired outcome is the only life you're allowed to lead. You were humbled in the best way possible by having that narrative ripped out from underneath you. Have it shake the very foundation you thought the only successful one in life. The checklist, the accomplishment list, the if I get married, if I buy the house, if I do all the right things, then suddenly my life will be perfect. What I promised myself for so many years. But the timeline and the checklist you told yourself you have to follow failed you. You ended up with the wrong person. You ended up at the wrong job. You ended up with a house that didn't feel like home. You ended up losing who you really were just to achieve things you were told you were supposed to achieve. And when the ending wasn't what you anticipated, you broke. You grieved. You bathed in your pain. But you also felt relief, joy. You felt lighter. You felt relaxed in your body for the first time in years. You realized in the moments where your jaw unclenched, where your shoulders relaxed, where your mind stilled, that you had just been handed the greatest gift. You could actually now build a life that you love, where no one else dictates the choices but you. When you don't listen to anyone else except your inner voice, where you come home, where you feel grateful, where you love the little moments. A life that is not one check mark at a time, but a burst of love in every moment. Even the tough ones. It's easier to ride out a storm when it's a place that you enjoy, a place you want to stay. So that woman that was scared to lose everything, she's not here anymore. Now, you're the woman who's blessed to have lost the things that were never worth keeping, so that you can have the life worth living in. Starting over is a gift I will enjoy again and again. And it really does take sometimes being forced to start over to realize what a gift it is, to realize that you didn't want those things, to realize that you truly, deep down, want something different for yourself. So I encourage you to look at what you are building or what you were building to that moment that you were forced to change, that you were forced to get up, that you were forced to heal. Or maybe that you just decided that you wanted to move forward in a different way. But what led to there? And do you really want it? Was the destination you were fighting so hard for worth it? And maybe starting over isn't as scary as you thought it was. Maybe it isn't as tough as you thought it was. Maybe it is exactly what you should have. Maybe it is exactly what you want, but that you just didn't see. And if you're in that period where starting over still feels scary, try to think of one thing that's in your life now that you never would have had before you started over, that you absolutely love having in your life. Think about one thing, because I guarantee you that's not going to be the only thing that you love. And if that one thing entered your life because you were forced to start over or because you decided to start over, think about all of the other things waiting for you. Okay, guys, with that, say it with me. I'm a fucking baddie. All right. Love y'all till next time.